Well, the most sparkling experience in my life, it was when I met my husband. It was in the most beautiful place on earth, I think. It's Amalfi, on the Amalfi Coast in Italy. And I was there by myself, and I was just walking on the street. I went there for the weekend. I was walking on the street, and I decided to treat myself and to go to a nice restaurant. So I did it, and I was just standing in line, and then in front of me I see the most beautiful man hanging out there with a woman, and I think, oh, this is the most beautiful man I ever seen. And then, oh, he's married, because I thought he was married with this woman. And then I just stand in line, and then he turns and he says, oh, hi. And I say, well, I don't speak English. I didn't speak any English then. So he says, oh, what do you do here? I say, well, I'm trying to eat, but every table is taken. So I say, well, if you want to eat, if you want to sit with us. So I thought he was married, and I thought he was very safe. So we sat together, and so we sat, and as soon as we sat, his friend says, well, I'm not married. I'm married. I'm not married with him. I'm married, and I live in Israel. I have 3 daughters, and he's free, and he lives in the United States, and he's looking for a wife. I say, wow, really? I thought it was a joke. And well, they were having fun. We were all having fun. It was a great evening. And then, we just exchanged addresses, and it was just very fun. And the day after, I had to go to the beach. And so they just took me to the beach, and then this is the beach where I was going since I was little, like that, and there was never construction on this beach. And that day, after 30 years, I see this beach. There were construction on the beach, like somebody was sending a message from the sky. And so he says, you can't be on this beach with this construction. Well, maybe you have to come with us again. And so I did, and it was just everything. The air was so sweet. It was spring, and it was so beautiful, everything, and jasmine flowering everywhere. And so we just, oh my God, he's crying. Well, anyway, so we went to the bus in the evening. He took me to the bus to go home, and he said, don't forget me. And well, I didn't forget him. So here they are, the result of that marriage. So I married him.
The most positive experience I had was I was invited to go to a meeting at the Smith College place, and people spoke about mental illness and several different ways of opinion. They basically said that one person said there's no such thing as a mental illness, and this other person was against being in a psychiatric hospital. So I took control, and I raised my hand. I said, hi, I am a client of ServiceNet, and I would like to say that there is such thing as a mental illness, and if I wasn't on clozapine, I wouldn't be standing here talking to you guys. And I told them in a peaceful way that yes, there is mental illnesses, and yes, the psychiatric wards are helpful and useful because they help you deal with delusions and voices, and they don't disregard the mental illness, but they help you try to live with it. So there are some people out there who have a psychiatric illness, and the most positive thing was standing up for the psychiatric community, people with psychiatric disabilities. I felt pretty positive about that, and that I was also like on the radio, and I told everybody out there, I said, if your medication works for you, take it. And if your psychiatrist is a really good psychiatrist, keep on seeing him or her, because medication helps us to be stable. Medication helps us to live a life. And as far as like the psychiatric wards go, it's positive. They help you deal with things, and I would hope that, yes, this is America, we have freedom of speech and everything, but please do not, if somebody is on psychiatric meds and it's helping them, please do not try to disregard that, because that's just it. And the positive thing was I was speaking up for the psychiatric people with psychiatric disabilities community. I also actually ran an art group and with my sponsor, and we had our paintings hung up in a bakery, and through that I want to educate the public about mental illness, and through the art, through peace, through getting a message across in a peaceful way is the most positive thing. But most positive thing was I stood up for people who needed to be stood up for, and that's my positive thing that happened. Thank you. The funniest thing that happened to me was when me and my roommate went to the Peter Pan bus station, because I needed to take a Peter Pan bus to go to the American Red Cross in Springfield. And as we were sitting there, a tractor-trailer truck came up the street, the bus terminal street, the wrong way. So if the bus came this way, the tractor-trailer truck would have came, the tractor-trailer truck was coming this way, and they would have clashed. So as I was sitting there, I was wondering to myself what was going to happen. And so I asked a woman at the Peter Pan bus terminal, I said, well, what happens if a bus comes? And her expression was, they'll crash. And I was just beside myself. I was just like, I started laughing. And then the funniest part was this young man who is a tractor-trailer truck driver. He actually just got hired by that company, and he basically didn't feel safe with this older gentleman driving the tractor-trailer truck. So what he did was he asked the guy to stop the truck, and what he did was he got all his belongings, his clothes and whatnot, his backpack, and he actually bought a Peter Pan bus ticket, and he proceeded to go home on a Peter Pan bus because he was so afraid of this driver, this older man who was the driver. He just says, I'm out of here, and bought a Peter Pan bus ticket and just took a bus home, and he was going to work with another company, and it was just so hilarious. It was just like, he got out of the truck, got his belongings, and bought this ticket, Peter Pan bus ticket, and went home. And luckily nothing happened. The guy did go up the street. Luckily there was no bus, but the expression on the woman's face was like, I asked her, what would happen if a bus came? And she's like, they'll crash. And that's the end of the story.
Hi. I used to be a bus driver in this city, and for a couple years, and I was blessed to have met quite a few different characters, and one of the most amazing people I think I've met on the route was a gentleman who at one point had a high professional job in town, and one day he was walking on the crosswalks across the street to get to his job, and he got hit by a car, and what ensued is he became paraplegic. And I was able to, I was lucky enough to have met him, and he was transported almost every day, and I would pick him up and bring him to his house. And over time I was able to actually get part of his story, and the way it went was that he was just traveling to work one day. I guess somebody didn't see him in the crosswalk and he got hit by a car. They took him for dead. And then he continued to try to resume a normal life. He had a house, he had a family, he had 2 children and a wife whom he loved very much. But over time, the marriage fell apart and he tried to hold on to his house. He lost touch with his children, but his biggest challenge was to try to become independent again. And so every day that I saw him, I tried to help him out of the truck or the bus and tried to get him into his house or whatever, but every day he would push my hands away and say, no, I'm doing it myself. And he would speak in a way that I could barely understand, but over time I was able to understand his language, and he was able to tell me many things, including many things about his private life and his humor, and he had a lot of humor in the situation despite his handicap, and he was determined that he would one day become totally independent. And I was totally struck by the immense courage of this gentleman, and I could relate to it myself because I felt like if I were in such a circumstance, if I could have handled it, I would have tried to be as independent as I could too. And my heart goes out to him because he was a fighter, and I believe to this day he probably has become much more independent, and I'm very happy for that attitude and that sense of self and that determination. So that has definitely left a special place in my heart about, human capacity for change. Is that okay? I have a sister who at the time lived in New York City right before the bombings hit the towers, and she used to commute to work every day from, I believe it was Nyack to New York City, because she worked right in the city. And she was taking a commuter bus like usual. She'd park her truck somewhere else, take the commuter bus into the city. And the day of the September bombings, she was taking the usual bus, which was loaded with everyday workers from all walks of life. And as they were nearing the city, the Twin Towers were coming up into the review. And first, everybody in the bus started screaming because they saw one plane hit the towers, and I don't know if it fell or whatever, but then they saw the second plane hit, and everyone by then was really, really concerned and upset. But the driver continued to drive into the city, and my sister was looking all around and saying, "What's going on? You're going to drive us into the madness, And everybody was just sitting there waiting and for the bus to get through traffic. And my sister basically just got up to the bus driver and says, "Listen, you take this bus and you turn this bus around because you're driving us into a terrorist situation and we don't want to be part of it." And the guy hemmed and hawed for a while through a couple traffic lights. And finally, my sister said again, she says, "I demand that you stop the bus and let us passengers off." And he said, "Well, I don't know if I could do that yet. I have to call my manager or whoever." And she goes, "Then stop the bus now and call your manager." And he got off the bus, called his manager, and my sister got on the phone and says, "The driver's driving us into the chaos. Could you please have him turn the bus around and drive us back?" So the manager said yes, and they drove the bus back out. But they would have driven right into the city if she didn't say that. So in reference to the 9/11 attacks, I had another sister who lived in the city, right at the heart of the city, right at the heart of Ground Zero. And she was working for, I believe it was Calvin Klein at the time. And she used to take the subway into work. And that same morning that my other sister, Diana, told the bus driver to turn around, my sister Patty was going to work on the subway herself. And she saw the entire drama unfold with the towers and realized this is not just a normal everyday crash into the towers, right? It's very serious. So what she realized, the first thing she wanted to do was save her, hey Martin, first thing she wanted to do was save her son who was at a school across town, and she basically walked through about 12 blocks to get over to her son who was 14 at the time. And she said they were going through rubble, they were going through tons of stuff falling on them, smoke. Half the time she couldn't even see the street. People were crying, people were walking through with blood all over them. And my sister's like me, she's not very big or anything. She's not very, physically tough, and she always thought she was pretty, you know, wimpy and stuff. But this day she felt like a warrior as she walked across the, you know, the bridge to get to her son. And later, when she finally got there, she found out her son had already been transported somewhere else. But to her, it was a big step. You know, she got through a lot of calamity because this part of her inside was, you know, she needed to make sure he was okay.
So my little story is, when I was, I believe I was 21 years old, like 10 years ago, I have this tattoo here, Jack Kerouac. I hadn't had the tattoo yet, but he's kind of had a bit of impact on my life. Anyways, I read On the Road when I was 18, and like I was like obsessed with the guy like for years. And then, well, yeah, for like 4 or 5 years, till when I was 21, I had the opportunity. I read the Boston Phoenix when I was at Fitchburg State College, and they were having an art exhibit at the Lowell Trade Museum or something. It used to be a factory years ago by the canal, and they were doing an art exhibit because they wanted to create a U.S. stamp of Jack Kerouac. So I went there. And my friend lived in Medford, so I spent the weekend. I spent one night at my friend's house in Medford. Him and his father drove me to the train station there, and I went into Lowell. And I found out from Lowell train station how to get into town and do whatnot. And I ended up going to Edson Cemetery after I went to the art exhibit and found out where his grave was. But when I got there, I finally got there, and it's just a face stone because he didn't die a very wealthy man, you know. Kind of well, anyways, but when I got there, I was just like, okay, what do I do now? So I guess what my story about is kind of like unfulfilled dreams or something, like living up like expectations of something. It's like a lot of stuff that happens that when you're young, in your 20s and all that. And then when you get older, you realize how a lot of your dreams get broken, and you realize how like much life truly does suck. I don't know. Just the older you get, it seems like the more you got to conform, and you realize how maybe that's the word you're looking for, conformity, huh? Like conforming the facts of life, I guess. So. I'm all set. I remember the good old days, back when I could take a Peter Pan bus terminal back to Greenfield, Massachusetts at 3 a.m. in the morning after a nice decadent night of lap dances at the Mardi Gras strip joint and Teddy B's. But no, I can't do that anymore. Why? Because of the price of gas. Does that have to do with you, President Bush? I can't enjoy my lap dances anymore because of that? Now I have to settle for internet porn. It's unbelievable. Last summer in the month of July, summer 2004, I received my first automobile. And I've had a few repair. I got a couple flats, and then the most recent one happened this spring. My throttle cable snapped, and you know, you talk to a lot of motorcycle guys. Oh yeah, that's an easy repair. Yeah, no, there ain't too many guys that want to fix motor scooters. There's a lot of guys that want to fix motorcycles. So, and I happen to have a very rare motor scooter. It's not like a Yamaha or a Honda, or, you know, whatever, Vespa. It's called a Kinji 4G. And this summer has been hell because I haven't been able to enjoy the nice weather. I haven't been able to leer at all the women in downtown Amherst and this fine establishment either. Yeah, I haven't been able to check out all the eye candy this summer, so it's been a very disappointing summer, I have to say. And yeah. I don't know if I'm ever gonna recover. I'm all done.
The prophets from Bethel came to Elisha and asked him, "Did you know that the Lord is going to take your master away? The Lord has told me to go to the Jordan River." But again Elisha replied, "As surely as the Lord lives, and you yourself live, I will never leave you." So they went on together. 50 men from the group of prophets also went and watched from a distance as Elijah and Elisha stopped.
Hey, the Army-Navy store's gone. The Army and Navy store was selling things like kill Tommy Surprise or racist stuff.
Me and 4 or 5 of my friends, probably my friend Mike, my friend Jordan, my friend Mac, and my friend Nick, who's right over there, were in the Vetsfield Woods stick fighting. And my friend Jordan asks me if I can get her a stick off of a kind of high tree. It was kind of like a sapling, probably about this big. So I kind of just jumped up on the tree and leaned back. And right as I'm leaning back, I guess nature decided to punish me by bending a tree, and 6 or 7 bees start swarming around my head, and they sting me on the back, they sting me on my arm. So I just whip off my shirt, start running, and they're stinging me all along the way. I ran for like half a mile, no, not even, probably a quarter of a mile, and they're still stinging me. I thought they were gone, so I reach up to my head and I grab it, and there's a bee right there in my hair. So I like push it away, and it bites me on the neck. I think there still might be a mark. There's some marks on my back, and they're pretty much all over me, so I just got like stung by like 6 bees, and then I just ran, kept running, and kind of got them off. But I guess it's kind of like nature punishing me or something, so it's kind of interesting.
Second World War, Vietnam Wars guy. So anyways, I had to meet him down here, and he...
What else besides this?
My pride and joy.
Wow. Okay.
So, I've got a joke for you, and this is the quackiest joke by far that I've ever heard. A duck walks into a little, convenience shop, and he says, "Got any grapes?" The man at the counter goes, "No, I don't got any grapes." So the duck looks a little disgruntled and leaves, and comes back the next day. The man at the counter looks at the duck kind of strangely as he walks up, and lo and behold, he says again, "Got any grapes?" The guy says, "No, I still don't got any grapes." The duck looks disgruntled and leaves again, and comes back for the 3rd day in a row and says, "Got any grapes?" The man at the counter says, "Look, I don't have any grapes today, and I'm not going to have any grapes tomorrow, and if you come in tomorrow and ask me if I've got any grapes, I'm going to nail your feet to the floor." The duck says, and leaves the thing in a hurry. The thing. Then he comes back the next day. The man behind the counter looks at the duck very suspiciously and feels around for a hammer. The duck goes, "Got any nails?" The guy's like, "No." He's like, "Got any grapes?"